We are back at Peppermill after an early morning hike up Rattlesnake Mountain with my boy Reno Grinder and our dog, as you saw right there. And currently coming into today's session on a 6-session winning streak. As you can take a look at the stats right here, courtesy of Poker Income Pro, the app that I use. Things have been going relatively well for the last several weeks, and that's good. I've been trying to average 5-hour sessions or so, trying to get home a little earlier to help take care of my son Austin. And that winning streak is also good because it's helping me recover from the devastation of the Super Bowl, which I still can't get over. I still cannot get over the fact that 49ers found a way to lose that game in the way that they did. But obviously I'm going to have to. I did not really watch many cartoons and things growing up. I watched NFL films primarily, and of course plenty of live sports. And I've always been proud of that. But the time when that really sucks is when your team loses in the freaking Super Bowl. Because all that build-up, all that work to get to that point, just makes it hurt that much more. I'm going to try to stop bitching about this. I'm going to try. God damn it. Could we not have just run the ball there a couple times? Anyway, let's get into today's session. It took me about 4 hours into the session when I finally started filming, and at that point, I was already up $400 or so when the 2-seat opened up, which is one of the 4 seats that I now vlog out of. I have $1,400 in front of me when I pick up pocket jacks under the gun +2 and open to 20. The button calls and the small blind, a well-known pro who prefers not to be identified here, makes it 105 more. This pro is obviously very tough, but is very aggressive with a number of hands. Folding pocket jacks here is completely ridiculous. So I call, and the button folds. So with 270 in, the flop comes 8-6 deuce, 2 clubs. Now I fully expected him to bet, but once he checked, I figured that I'm most likely ahead here. So I make a move that you guys know that I in particular like to make. The very small bet. I make it 60. And as part of me expected, he check raises, making it 200 more. Now, I don't really expect him to check raise his overpairs here. I figure he was hoping that I would check back a hand like pocket jacks. Now, regardless, I'm not thinking about folding here. So I make the call. And with 790 in the pot, the turn is an offsuit king. I didn't like it, but I also didn't hate it, because how many kings is he check raising on the flop? And now he fires $330. Now, if my hand was good on the flop, it still figures to be good here. And I certainly had a pretty good feeling that it was, so I elected to call. With 1,450 in, the river pairs the 8. He checks, and I simply elect to check it back here, though that's not really the Ben Deach style of poker that you guys should be accustomed to seeing. I like to squeak out every ounce of value in spots like this by making some small bets. In this case, I didn't want to open myself back up to a check raise. He just says ace high. And I show my hand, obviously I'm good. He then later went on to tell me that he had ace queen of clubs. Not sure I believe that he would check ace queen of clubs on that flop. But that is his word. And after that, as you can see, a player named Jay wanted to get his little kitty card protector in the vlog. Either way, it's a hell of a start to episode 71. What is that? Next hand comes when there's a $10 button straddle on, and I pick up ace queen under the gun +1. I make it 35, and the low jack calls. The straddle calls as well, as does the small blind. So we're 4 ways to a flop with $140 in the pot, and it comes 10-9-6 rainbow, and no one bets. The turn is a king, giving me a gut shot straight draw, but again, it checks through. The river is a fairly interesting card. It comes a queen, but brings in a one-liner to a jack. Again, it checks around, and I show my hand. Now, 2 other guys fold, but the low jack shows me his cards, and I wasn't looking directly at him when he did. But I thought for sure that I saw a jack. And as you can tell by looking at it right now, it's somewhat hard to tell. I'm assuming that it's a queen in his hand. But for whatever reason, I was convinced that my eyes saw a jack and that he had misread the board. We won't know for sure. Either way, we take down the pot. We get an under-the-gun limp from a VIP in the next hand, and it folds to me on the button with pocket kings. I raise to 20, and the blinds fold, and, not surprisingly, the VIP defends. And after that defense, he proceeds to check in the dark. So, I don't do this too often, but I thought it would be fun for the vlog, and I occasionally will do this when I'm not vlogging, only if I'm against guys like this, nice guys who give a lot of action, that is. I bet in the dark.
If you check, I'm going to bet.
I make it 25. So, the flop comes out 9, 7, 6, 2 diamonds, and he then has a look at that flop and decides to call me. So with 90 in, the turn is a 4. I bet 30, sensing massive weakness, and sure enough, he folds. So at that point, we're up $1,300 on the day. Next hand, we get a couple of limps, and I have Jack 9 offsuit in the big blind. I check, and the flop comes 10, 6, king, with 2 spades, giving me a gut shot straight draw. I check, and it gets checked through. The turn is highly above average. Comes a queen, giving me the second nut straight. I bet 2 red chips, which, regardless of how small the pot is, always looks weak. The same VIP as in the last hand immediately raises me to 60. And I elect to 3-bet it to 135, knowing that betting the 250 required to put him all in would likely result in a fold. That is a read based on years of play against this particular opponent. As I expected, he calls. And with 285 in, the river is a very nice brick, coming to 3 of hearts. I put him all in here, which just seems like the obvious play, hoping he has 2 pair, but once I thought about it later, I figured that 2 pair was probably going to be a reshove on the turn, so I probably should have sized down because he does end up folding his hand there. Either way, we take down another pot. Later on, under the gun opens to 15, and I pick up ace-king plus 2. I 3-bet it to 40, and the hijack snap calls. Under the gun calls as well, so with 120 in, it comes queen 10, 5, rainbow. Under the gun checks, and I check. The hijack then bets for 60. Under the gun folds, and I elect a check call, as this opponent is quite aggressive, and I could still be ahead here a lot of the time. The turn's a 9, and I check, and now he checks it back, and I was actually feeling very good about the showdown value I had going to the river. The river does come an 8, bringing a 1-liner to a jack, a terrible river card for me. I check and fold to his bet. Definitely not a hand I would want on my highlight reel. It made me ask the question on the flop. If your hand is good enough to check call, shouldn't it have been good enough to bet? A lot of better outcomes can occur when betting, as opposed to check calling. Either way, we played a few more hands and then racked up, booking a very nice win. All right, racking up and cashing out, booking a win of $1,412, most of which on that one hand. So a very good day here on a Thursday at the Peppermill. By the way, I didn't tell this story, but I just thought it was hilarious. This is the first time this has ever happened. There was a massive VIP here the week of the Super Bowl. I didn't vlog the session. I don't even know what his name is, but he just had come into town for a few days. Obviously, made some donations to our game, and I was the recipient of the final one. And when he was leaving, he asked, can I keep the last 20 of my all-in to pay for the cab ride back to the hotel? And of course my answer was yes. And if any of you are in the same situation against a guy who's great for the game, your answer sure as hell better be yes as well. But I just thought it was rare because I've never been asked that before. And I'm not sure if I will be again anytime soon. Because we don't get too many of those kind of VIPs here around Reno as much as we would like. We typically have the ones that play here on a regular basis that we always see. But it's rare we get the ones that drop in, like that guy did. So, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the vlog. As always, follow me on Instagram at Ben Deach. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.